On behalf of RBCS, RBCS New Zealand, and Software TestWorks, we welcome everyone today to this webinar on testing on outsourced projects. This is a 1-minute warning for the beginning of the webinar. For logistics purposes, please note that all attendee audio lines have been muted.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
On behalf of RBCS New Zealand, and Software TestWorks, we welcome everyone today to this webinar on testing on outsourced projects. I am Rex Black, President of RBCS, a worldwide testing and quality assurance firm serving clients ranging from small startups to Fortune 20 global enterprises. Since 1994, RBCS has been both a pioneer and a leader in quality hardware and software testing. RBCS has offices in the United States, New Zealand, Australia, and Sri Lanka, with partners around the world. RBCS delivers insight and confidence to our clients, helping them get quality software and hardware products to market on time and with measurable return on investment. RBCS has a team of international consultants that deliver customized training, consulting, and outsourcing services for companies that are looking to improve their test and quality assurance practices. RBCS has helped hundreds of companies reduce development and support costs while assuring the best quality products are delivered to customers. I am the author of Pragmatic Software Testing, Advanced Software Testing Volumes 1 and 2, Foundations of Software Testing, Critical Testing Processes, and Managing the Testing Process. I hold a degree in Computer Science and Engineering from UCLA. I'm also past president of the International Software Testing Qualifications Board and the American Software Testing Qualifications Board. Before we start the presentation, a couple of housekeeping notes. If you have any questions during the course of the webinar, please feel free to submit them through the presentation via your webinar interface. There's no need to ask for presentation copies, as the presentation is posted on the web at www.rbcs-us.com on the basic library page. If you're having problems with either the audio or visual components of this webinar, please contact GoToWebinar support. If for whatever reason you cannot get to the webinar online, or if you are dealing with an unreliable connection, please download the slides from the basic library at www.rbcs-us and be sure to use the telephone to connect rather than voice over IP, since that's more likely to be affected by a flaky internet connection. So, on with the show. Today's presentation is on testing on outsourced projects. It's based on what I and other RBCS consultants have seen and learned over the last 20-plus years of involvement in outsourced projects. I've been on all sides of the equation, from providing outsourced testing services to working for companies that were purchasing outsourced testing services to working on site with clients to help them test software bought from outsourced developers. I've seen it from a number of angles. I've also been on the hardware side, which took to outsourcing a lot earlier than the software side, and I've been on the software side quite a bit, of course, too, over the last 10 years. And I think the software side has a lot to learn from the history of outsourcing in other industries, including hardware. So some of you might be wondering what's with the onions. A lot of our clients, when they get started doing outsourcing, go through an onion peeling exercise. And by that I mean they address the problems that are immediately visible on the surface, the challenges associated with outsourcing, and they don't realize that under that layer is another layer, and under that layer is another layer, and so on and so on. And so they keep bumping into these issues as they try to successfully outsource. So what I'm going to try to help you do here is allow you to slice through the onion and see all of the different challenges that await you from a testing point of view if you're on an outsourced project. As they say, forewarned is forearmed. Now, when I'm talking about outsourcing, you might say, okay, well, what specifically do you mean by that? Basically, anytime we're sending work outside of the organization, we're outsourcing. And that can mean we're doing outsourced development, but the testing is staying in-house. We've seen that. It can mean we're doing outsourced development and the outsourcing testing as well to a single company, and I'll talk more about that later. It can mean that we're outsourcing development and outsourcing testing, but to two different companies, and again, I'll address that. And it can mean outsourcing of development and or testing to a number of companies, and we'll look at that variation too. So I'm going to try to cover a lot of bases here, and it really is the case that outsourcing has a lot of similar challenges even across these different variations. Now, another nuance related to outsourcing is how it is managed, how the engagement with the outsourced vendor or vendors is managed. It can be very hands-on, where management of the company, the purchasing company, the client, is in constant contact and supervision and guidance, control of the outsourced service provider. At the other end of the extreme, we've seen things that are very, very hands-off, where it's basically just gets thrown over the wall, and people will assume that good things are going to happen, and then sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. Now, in terms of location, this, of course, is another variable which has an impact on outsourcing and how it works out. It could be a company across the hall, and you know, we've seen that situation where the companies are, you know, in the same building or the same town. But then you also see situations where we're talking about cross-country or across the globe, and of course more and more we're getting this globalized form of outsourcing that has its own set of challenges that come with it. Okay, so why is this outsourcing happening? What are the reasons for outsourcing? Well, they are varied, and they are not always fully transparent. The ones that you will hear about that people will readily acknowledge are, of course, labor and cost savings. It's going to be cheaper to do it outsourced, and it's difficult to argue that one. The wage differentials are tremendous, and the thing that people forget, of course, is that you're not buying an hour, you're buying an output. And we've seen some clients that don't really properly take that into account, and they assume that because it's going to cost us a tenth per hour to get the work done, that they're going to get it done 10 times cheaper, and that's not a linear relationship. Expertise, capital equipment, geographical advantages, these can also come into play, and we have seen them come into play. Certainly certain types of testing like performance testing, usability testing, and so forth. Expertise and capital equipment costs can be a big concern. So you know, we often see those come up as considerations, and publicly so. System and product certification, certain things like, for example, getting the Windows logo stamped on your box if you're going to ship software or hardware, that there are certain labs that are allowed to do that, and that's something that drives outsourcing in some cases. And then inability to handle the work in-house. We've certainly seen situations where the clients have a big spike in their workload, and then that results in them wanting to just shuffle some work off and get it done.